So one of the states that has rolled back a little bit of the taxes is Meghalaya. We have the Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Mr. Conrad Sangma. Thank you very much, Mr. Sangma, for joining us. We saw a couple of years ago the centre initiate the rolling back of the taxes in order to provide relief. This time around, states have taken the lead. First of all, would you like to tell the residents of your state and also people staying elsewhere, what exactly is the decision of the Meghalaya government?
The decision of the Meghalaya government, keeping in mind the prices of petrol and diesel, is to reduce the overall VAT. So at one point for diesel, the percentage was close to 23%, but now we've reduced that for diesel and brought it down to 12% on the VAT. And at the same time, for petrol also, it used to be at 31%, and now we have reduced the VAT to 20%. So we felt that it was necessary to do this because there was a lot of stress on the people and the consumers. It will affect the overall revenue structure for us because this is one of the higher sources of income for us. But we felt at this point in time that some kind of a relief needs to be given to the consumers because the amount is quite high right now.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Sangma, you mentioned a very important point that it is a very high source of revenue. Now, it is a high source of revenue for all governments. Do you think that this is a collective failing that for both the centre and the state, you seem to be treating, petrol stations as some sort of a tax collection ATMs?
We see the last 1 year has been very, very difficult for the country as a whole. So all the state governments and the central government have faced huge financial crisis. So therefore, this was one of the areas in which we did have limited choice. So we needed to increase the revenue. But then at some point in time, we need to look into the entire thing and decide that, some relief has to be given. So when we saw that the prices were, climbing up again and again, we strongly felt as a state government that the time had come to give some relief to the people. So yes, it's been difficult and for government as well as for the people. But as I said, we need to balance things out.
Yeah, Mr. Sangma, the proportion of the state tax versus the central tax on fuel is a much debated issue and it differs from state to state. What's the equation in your state, for instance?
Well, we have, of course, the amount of increase in the excise from the center has been much higher in the past 1 year. So maybe almost a double, triple of the amount that was increased by us during the COVID time. The excise duty by the center was increased. So that the difference was much, much higher from the state central government side. But now with the reduction from our side, the difference will be much, much larger. So the central government, as I said, of course, has a lot of pressure in the sense that there's huge financial strain on the system. So therefore, this, of course, does cause inconvenience, has been difficult for the people, but the government had to do it at a certain point. But as I was mentioning, there comes a point in time when then you need to take a call and realize that it's a bit too much and some relief needs to be given to them.
So do you think, would this be your message for the centre as well? Because I clearly remember the late Arun Jaitley initiating this initiative where the centre decided to cut cost or cut taxes on petrol and diesel by a significant amount. Do you feel that it will come as great relief if the centre does that again, given the fact that we have a precedent?
I'm sure it will give a relief if the centre does decide, but that will be a decision taken by the central government because there are many factors they need to consider. So I don't think I'll be the appropriate person to say whether the centre should do it or not. But as I said, that we did whatever was within our reach, which was within our control, and we decided to reduce our VAT structure here.
Mr. Sangma, given the way fuel is on fire right now, I mean, in some states, some specific type of fuel is above 100. Would you call this an emergency enough for states as well, or governments? Let's not differentiate between state and centre. For governments to roll back their taxes, given how heavily taxed fuel is?
Absolutely. That's the reason why we have done it as a state. And we have reduced it by a very, very significant amount. But as I said, the individual decision will depend on the respective state governments and the central government.
Sure. All right. Mr. Sangma, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.